We've agreed to have a coffee, a very serious coffee.
How does it benefit you as an
Well,
artist?
I don't really know why I do the things that I do.
It's so exciting!
Me making my art is very much like 50% making it, and then 50% is me swearing at it.
We're in the same boat. It looks like people just meet each other at the right time, at the right place.
I think it's pretty much impossible to be normal when you're actually an artist.
Hello, today is quite rainy and grey day, but we don't care because we're sitting here in Praxis Artspace in Bowden, surrounded with colourful and bright works by Dan Withey.
Hello.
Who currently has an exhibition here, and we could not miss this chance to come here and chat with him about his art, about this exhibition. Hi, Dan.
Hello, how you doing?
Good. So the first question, of course, about this exhibition, which you called The Optimist and Tricky Magic.
Yes.
And The Tricky Magic.
Yes.
So what this exhibition is about, and how did you get idea to put together all these works?
Yeah, well, basically the title is very much about the fact that, you know, it's sometimes difficult to be an optimist, and generally to be an artist you have to kind of almost be a little bit delusional to kind of keep making weird art, I suppose. And also there's kind of like a balancing act where you're kind of like, you're on the line between kind of being completely delusional and also kind of being able to kind of function and also relate to other people. So I think that's kind of what the show's about. My general art practice and life, and attempting to, you know, stay positive in like kind of a world that is sometimes quite tumultuous. And, you know, I think we're all kind of feeling that a little bit because no one can quite predict what's going to happen. And that's kind of beautiful, but also kind of terrifying at the same time. I'm a big fan of things being two things at once, so both good and bad at like the same time, but from different perspectives, you know, if that makes any sense at all. I don't know.
Yeah, and this exhibition is so huge. Like, I did not try to count, but I believe it like around 100 works here.
Apparently 100 exactly. I don't really count. I just kind of go. The gallery asks me for probably like, I don't know, a certain amount, and then I kind of go surprise and just throw artwork at them, and it's usually a lot more than they ask for. Yeah, so
it was their job to count them.
Yeah, a little bit. It's kind of like there's this van. We put it in the van. The van arrives. Here you go. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and how long did it take to create this body of work?
Well, you see, it's kind of a difficult question to answer because I don't usually keep track, but I usually work on probably about like 5 or 6 paintings at once that I kind of bounce between. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think 6 months, but it could be shorter than that. But, you know, I generally lock in.
Yeah, I believe that we've been here last year, and it was quite big exhibition of your works, but that time you collaborated with Violet Cooper, the ceramic artist.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, and it was a brilliant idea of the exhibition because what Dan and Violet did, he painted her artworks, her three-dimensional ceramic pieces, and she sculptured his 2D works. And it was a brilliant idea, and I never seen something like this before.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard concept to articulate with words. So basically the show was called Chicken Egg, and the question was which artwork came first, whether it was the painting that I did or the piece of pottery that Violet did. So basically we kind of took a painting that I did of pottery and Violet would make it. And also I didn't know anything about pottery then, so half the time she'd be like, oh, this is so hard to make, Dan. Because also I had no idea about clay and gravity. and building things. Like now I do, and I have said sorry to her. So the idea was you kind of wouldn't necessarily know which one was made first. And yeah, it was a cool show. What's nice is that me and Violet still talk, and now that I've kind of started making like ceramic stuff of my own, I can kind of ask her questions, how to do good pottery and things, and mistakes and stuff, and how to fix things.
So you
kind
you're still in touch, and
we talk all the time. She's really funny. Like, she's great.
And did you do some ceramic before, or this exhibition just sparked your interest?
Weirdly, my partner, she bought me a gift card, right, for a course at the Jam Factory.
Oh.
And it had sat in a drawer for like 2 years. And I wanted to do it, but I get distracted really easily. And then she was like, "You're going to have to do it, otherwise it's going to expire." Because I'm terrible with gift cards. I go, "Oh, that's nice. I should just frame them and just kind of have them forever." But basically, she was like, "You're gonna go," and then there was this hand building course for clay, and it was awesome, and like I really enjoyed it. And this, weirdly enough, happened. I was doing the course, and then I talked to Violet, and it just kind of happened at the same time that I was getting an interest into ceramics. But me and Violet have kind of existed in the Adelaide art scene for like 10,000 years, because I've been working as an artist since 2007, and she's been around for ages too, but we never actually kind of like, we'd seen each other's work but hadn't actually like talked until like a year or two ago, which is kind of like mad, really.
It looks like people just meet each other at the right time, at the right place.
And she's great. I love our chats.
Yeah.
She's really funny.
Yeah, and your works matched so well with each other. So if I did not know that you're a painter and she's a ceramist, I would say that one person made them.
Yeah.
Because it was so very well matching in style.
I think there's going to be like more collaborations in the future. We're working on something in the background. I don't know, like it's more nebulous at the moment. We're kind of like, we've agreed to have a coffee, a very serious coffee, and chat about like the something that, much like a lump of clay, we'll kind of go like that a bit, and it'll like. And something cool will happen, basically. There'll be some kind of like strange art thing that comes out of it. Okay.
Then what is going on here? It's some battle, or what is this?
Yeah, I mean, this painting is called Opinion Wars. And
so this battle.
Yeah, well, it kind of is, yeah. It's about two people arguing, but not really being able to actually convince each other, which is kind of the situation we're in at the moment, where the left and the right, or whatever you want to call it, basically are in this eternal struggle of who can shout loudest without actually listening to each other, which is kind of a bit of a shame. And that's kind of why the whole painting is really quite intense. You know, it's almost like close up, you can't actually tell what is going on. Like if I stand here, I'm like, what the hell even is this painting?
Yeah, they're all interlinked, interwoven.
Yeah, like I can tell there's some kind of strange conflict going on, but like it becomes clear the further back you get away from the painting. That's kind of what I intended when making it, that it's kind of almost like when you're in that struggle or an argument, you're right in it, and perspective is usually gained when you're not actually in it. You can kind of go, I could see good points on both sides. Also, a thing that isn't really discussed much is that if you kind of ask them, for the most part, I think most people just want to have a good life, live in a society where everybody's kind of happy, everybody gets along, but it's just a difference of opinion on how we get there. And there seems to be a lot of emphasis on our differences rather than what brings us together as humans. And I mean that's the same in lots of different things, like the art world. Lots of work and artist work is all about what makes you different, whereas a lot of my work is very much like what makes me human and what makes you human, and how we relate to each other. And that's kind of the thing that I'm into a lot, is the human experience, and trying to understand that. And that's kind of something we can all relate to, hopefully, unless you're not human. I mean, hello, people who aren't human.
So, talking about your style, how did you form it? Was it deliberately, or it just happened?
Well,
What inspires you?
Well, what's weird is I've always drawn, even when I was a kid. I used to draw battle scenes and things like that, and people's heads exploding and stuff like that at school.
Of course.
Yeah. So
it's a boyish stuff. Things.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't actually allowed to kind of watch any of this stuff. Like my mate, he'd always be like watching Terminator when he was like really young and stuff, and all these other shows. But I wasn't allowed to watch any of this. I don't know, my imagination, I'd just imagine what would happen, and I was always obsessed with like battles and wars and stuff like that. Basically, my parents got called down to school multiple times, like asking, like, what are you letting him watch? Why is he doing this? And they're like, we don't know. It's just creativity. But basically, I've always drawn, but I'd never really set out to become an artist. It kind of just happened weirdly by accident, mostly because I'm kind of terrible at everything else in terms of...
It's a good explanation.
Yeah. It's weirdly the path of least resistance, because like I'm super dyslexic, so I was terrible at school, and I also have ADHD, which means that you can't focus on anything that you're not interested in. And unfortunately, most of the school stuff was very boring, apart from history. It was very much like I flow like water, or I try to, and weirdly enough, I ended up doing a graphic design course that was terrible. It was really rubbish, but basically, this is when I was about 16. I did that, and I scraped by that course and got a diploma. I got that course, and basically me and my family migrated from England to Australia in 2004, and then we went, like, weirdly, we came to Adelaide, and I started studying at Uni SA, and I did a Bachelor of Visual Communication with a specialisation in illustration.
Much better.
Yeah, it's a long one. But, like, I kind of started getting the first bits of a style then. It's very important to me when I was formulating kind of like a style, like taking little bits from everywhere and kind of combining it into like a thing that I've made, rather than taking huge grabs from artists that I respect. It's more like an accumulation of everything that I've seen and things that I like, and I've kind of mashed it together into like this weird thing that's me, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I always wonder, because it's so well detailed. So from distance, that kiddish painting.
Yeah.
But you look close, and it's so professional, so well skilled, and so many details, and each detail worked out perfectly. It's all these little dots and little lines. And do you plan beforehand what to paint, or just going with the flow when creating?
It's kind of a mixture of both in a way. I mean, like, I do a lot of drawing in a journal, and so I'm never kind of lost for ideas. So whenever, like, and sometimes I'll make a background and go, this piece would look good on that. And then I do the basic outline. That's when I kind of start making things up as I go along. I have the basic outline, and I go, I'll change this to red. I'll add this pattern here. I'll do this. This needs to come forward a little bit. Or that needs to go backwards. Or, you know what would be good here? I'll put a giant carrot on it, you know. And usually as I'm making it, meaning will become more kind of like solid as I kind of go along, and then I add extra bits that kind of aid the message that I'm trying to put across, I suppose. Yeah. What's kind of strangely funny about the paintings being so neat is the fact that, once again, I'm two things at once. So in my life, I'm incredibly messy. My mum describes me as like a slug. I leave like a trail of destruction everywhere I go.
It's compensation.
Yeah, but like I make paintings that are kind of like very, I don't know, maybe it's kind of like a psychological kind of like striving to be kind of neater. And I'm getting better at being neater, but yeah, I think that's where it kind of comes from. I don't really know why I do the things that I do. I mean, that's like most of us, isn't it, really? Just try to be a nice person along the way.
Some way of self-expression, I believe.
Yeah, it's very much like all of the work is basically meditative and my way of processing the world around me. I don't know, it's almost like when you type into Google, does anybody else feel this way about this thing? Mm-hmm. Like all of my artwork's very much about like the human experience and how I deal with the world, but you know, and it's kind of like asking that question of what it's like to be human and hoping that other people kind of understand and also feel that same thing, if you know what I mean. And I don't know, I'm generally like a big fan of art that relates to people in their everyday lives and kind of lets them know that they're kind of not alone in some ways.
Then I would say that it's one of the most remarkable pieces in this exhibition, and you put it like your title one for announcements. And honestly, I'm in love with this creature, but who is this person? Could you tell us, please?
Ah, yes. Well, well, like most of my work, it's all like autobiographical. So it's kind of me, really. So the title is, I thought I was a wizard, I think I might actually be a fool. And it's basically like about one of those adages of, you know, the wise man knows he's a fool and the fool believes he's a wise man. And I kind of try to live my life by that and realizing that I kind of don't know everything. You know, that's actually not a negative thing. It's kind of like one of the beautiful things about being alive. You'll never actually learn everything. And also being able to admit that you're wrong when presented with like contradicting evidence, you know, and being able to change your mind about things. That's kind of like the mark of being smart, not being stubborn in your ways, and lifelong learning, which is something they talk about all the time when you're at uni back in the day. Yeah, it's pretty much about like that kind of uncomfortable thing of being a human. You're kind of squashed into kind of like a strange box and you're always trying to find your way. You know, when I was a teenager, firstly, you believe you're invincible, and secondly, you think you kind of know everything because you're kind of stupid then. And I don't know, the male brain doesn't develop fully until you're 26. And I think about all the times before I was 26, and I'm like, yeah, it's accurate. It's kind of a bit of a dummy in some of the things that I used to do. But on a side thing, that's kind of what the piece is about. And also, you know, that's why all the eyes are there, but he's kind of looking in multiple directions to kind of find out what everything's about, if you know what I mean. And it's kind of a very dreamscapey painting in some ways. It's kind of all over the place, kind of a little bit like I am. I don't really know the answers to everything, but you know, I'm kind of flailing around trying to understand what it is to be human. I think just like we kind of all are.
So, a technical question. You
Yes.
said that you work on few pieces at the same time.
Yes.
How do you manage it? Is it difficult? Because for me, you should concentrate on one piece and other pieces would not exist for you.
Well,
but
it's basically ADHD again. It's pretty much like managing my focus levels. So I find working on 5 pieces at once just works for me, because I go, oh, I'm working on this. I've got bored of that one. I'll go to this one and do this a little bit, and then I go, oh, I'm kind of bored of that one. I might go back to this one, and then go back to this one. And while I'm working on this one, I'm thinking about that one. And like, it sounds like madness, but
And this one's keep drawing.
yeah, that one's dry now. I can do this one, but then this one's dry, and I need to add a layer to this, and slowly they all get done. It's just the way that I kind of strangely work. But I go to the studio. I basically work solidly for the time that I'm there. Pretty much like having children really helped that, because I had limited time. You really have to go, okay, I'm in the studio, lock in, hyper-focus, engaged.
No kids rushing around.
That's it, just meditation, basically just listening to an audiobook and just kind of getting it done from 9 to 5 and then leaving. Yeah, no breaks, just maybe a coffee, but like, yeah, for the most part, I just go and lock in, and yeah, things get done.
In between these sessions in studio, do you still thinking about your pieces, or just like stop and go back to routine?
Yeah, I think about them a little bit, right? Like, what's my next step? I consider that type of stuff, but I also carry journals around with me that are varying different sizes. I have one that I carry around in a bag, but I also have a journal in my pocket, and then a second journal up here for thoughts. So I'm always kind of carrying something around with me, just in case like a lightning bolt strikes, and I'm like, oh,
That's documented immediately.
yeah, or something funny happens, or I see someone wearing like some strange clothing, so I write everything that I find interesting down, or draw things that I find interesting, or I write notes on what I need to do to a piece. Yeah, I always have to have like something with me to draw on. And I find that's really important, to cutting down on that kind of loading time, so that really, like, by the time you get to the studio, you've already got
Some ideas.
loads of stuff in there of things you can do. But if you're having a bad day in the studio, I find that there's always something you can do. Like, even if everything's going tragically wrong, you can stretch a canvas, or do something else, or heaven forbid, even clean the studio.
Yeah.
That doesn't help.
Sometimes it helps.
Yeah, and then you can like jump back in and work something out. I like listening to heavy metal a lot. That kind of weirdly gets me in the zone. Something that's really like fast. That helps. Metal.
It's so different with what finally becomes real on your canvas.
I know, the work doesn't look very heavy metal.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think it's just, I need that kind of like, to get like the
right mood.
Yeah, the work.
Do you think that this illustration background and graphic design background, did it help you in general?
Yeah, definitely. We did a lot of conceptual stuff in terms of where to place things, what contrasts with other things, visual interest and negative space and stuff like that, without necessarily how to paint. Well, we did some theory subjects, but for the most part, it was very much about like contrast, placement, and developing a style, which was really cool, and I really enjoyed it. I left uni kind of being a bit bereft, I think, when I first left uni, not really sure what to do. I don't really want to become an illustrator. Not that there's anything wrong with being an illustrator. Like, ever since then, I've just been doing the same thing. I make a certain amount of art, I have a venue, put the art in the venue, and people theoretically come and buy it. And it's always like, blows my mind that people actually come to my shows and buy things. And I'm very thankful, because, I mean, continued existence is pretty good, and having food. It strikes me that, like, my whole art practice is very much like Field of Dreams, that movie where the guy builds a baseball pitch for a bunch of ghosts, and, like, the ghosts actually turn up. So that's like my whole art career. I make a thing, no guarantee that anything will kind of happen, which is kind of terrifying. But I do it, and random people show up, and like, I'm always amazed that people kind of like what I do, which is kind of nice. Spent a lot of my early life being a dumbass at school, so it's kind of like, it's quite weird. It's like people go, "Oh, you're so good at this," and I'm like, "I am, but you won't want me doing your taxes." You know, like I have, like lots of my life is very much like, there's an Einstein quote where he says, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb, the fish will go through its life believing that it's like a moron, basically. So I've just weirdly found like that I'm good at swimming. There's lots of things I'm not good at, you know, like reading and things like that, and taxes. Actually, taxes are really helpful because I'll do anything to avoid them. So, like doing them. So I'll get tons of work done, like making art, just to avoid actually doing my taxes because I find them terrifying and very confusing.
We're in the same boat.
Yeah, I know. I think that's lots of people, to be honest.
Okay, let's talk about normal. What is normal?
Well, that is the question, isn't it? Well, pretty much the painting is called Normal, and it's about attempting to be normal. And I don't know, it's kind of quite difficult to be normal. And I've actually met people who are so normal that they're actually really weird. Yes. I'm not really like normal. Otherwise, I think it's pretty much impossible to be normal when you're actually an artist for the most part. But yeah, I kind of always grew up being a bit odd and not being able to do the things that like everybody else could with the dyslexia and the ADHD. So it's kind of, I could never quite focus on anything or pay attention or be able to do things that people, well, normal people could do easily. When I was at school, like I'm obviously quite a switched on person when you talk to me, but so people would be like, why can't you just do the normal thing that everybody else is doing? Why can't you sit still? Why can't you just write your name or why aren't you trying? You know, I could never be the thing that everybody else could be quite easily. And if I could go back in time, I wouldn't change it because it's made me the person that I am. I actually like myself for the most part. You know, being me is kind of hilarious. Like, I'm always, I don't know, it's like being in some kind of strange altered state all the time where, I don't know, everything's hilarious. But pretty much, I think we're kind of all trying to work towards being this kind of normal way of being. I mean, everybody's attempting to kind of work within a framework that we've all kind of agreed upon that is the acceptable way of being. And that's actually quite hard sometimes because, you know, I don't know, kind of don't even realize that I'm being loud or, you know, or not paying attention half the time or zoning out or being kind of accidentally obnoxious. But yeah, I kind of like this piece because it's mostly like everybody's kind of a bit of a freak. Like recently I found out that not everybody has an internal monologue. And I don't know about most people, like my brain, I'm constantly talking inside my head, like to an external me. It's like a conversation half the time, usually a funny one, but also telling my brain to not be mean. So don't be mean, don't say that, be good.
What did it answer?
Yeah, I have to tell my brain to shut up sometimes. Be nice to me. Shut up, brain. Also, the other day, I don't know, it's just weird. Like, it's great being human. I know, a lot of people talk about it being a negative thing, but you just got to embrace the person you are. Unless you're a serial killer, then probably don't do that. Just get some help. Yeah. Sorry.
I remember how we met first time. It was in Royal Society on North Terrace, and you had your also joint exhibition, and it was dedicated to building of institute itself, and it was quite unusual.
I like the concept of animism and the idea that inanimate objects and basically everything around us has some kind of personality / is alive in some way. It's about that idea of like a building absorbs all of the experiences and things that have happened in that building, the memories of all the people who've contributed to the making of the building, the living inside the building, walking around the building, and kind of create personality of that space. And I kind of wanted to make a show based around that, if that makes sense. Because I mean, you know, when you go to the front of that building, the front step is basically worn down by millions of footsteps over the years, and there's always something happening around that space, and everything that happens around it kind of contributes to the history of the space, whether that's individual stories or the big ones like the governor laying a big stone, or the drunk guy stumbling around it on his way home, or a nice exhibition that happened.
And how many artists was carrying the pieces inside? The huge ones.
We've all contributed to it.
It's so interesting.
And you know, those people who spend large portions of their lives inside the building doing a repetitive task, you know, I like to think that those spaces are kind of alive in some way.
In your paintings, it was also quite optimistic and positive place.
I am an optimist, even though I moan a lot, but that's kind of a cultural thing. I love moaning. It's kind of cathartic. It's being English. I do this thing where I don't know, like say if I'm eating a sandwich and it's horrible. I'm eating this thing. I'm like, oh, it's terrible. Isn't that awful? That's the worst sandwich I've ever had.
It's so exciting.
Well, I eat the whole thing and I'm like, God, that was awful. That's terrible. It just gives me something to moan about and
it makes memories.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Even the bad things that happen to you in life are kind of hilarious given the right amount of time, for the most part. I mean, relatively. It's kind of like that thing of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yes.
Kind of, within reason. And I don't think I have to test that. But yeah.
It's better not to.
Yeah, that's it. I just believe in it.
Then, I believe it's your second exhibition in Praxis Artspace, or even...
Oh man, I've had like, I would say I've probably had about 6 or 7.
Oh my gosh, I miss so many of them.
No, that's okay. It's kind of like, the thing is, it all kind of blurs together. But yeah, I've had quite a few here. So like I've had smaller shows in the front room, and I think I've exhibited a couple of times taking up the whole space. I can't remember them all, but the list says so. That I wrote down. Yeah. On the CV it says I've done all this stuff, but I can't remember any of it. I was there.
Yeah, but I'm really curious why you're coming and returning here to Praxis Artspace. How does it benefit you as an artist? Why this space?
Well, it's a fantastic space to exhibit your work, and the gallery does a really good job at hanging it. I mean, it just looks like really great with the right lighting. You know, in a nice kind of pristine white walls and things like that. Also, it's just really important to have a space wherever it is to kind of actually show people what you've been doing. And like Praxis, the gallery, has been doing that for lots of like Adelaide artists for a long time, and interstate artists actually. You know, so I suppose this is kind of why I like show my work here, because it's like a professional setting.
So you know that they will be presented well here.
Yeah. I think the reason why you show through galleries is kind of, for the most part, is because I don't know that many rich people, and they do, and you know, the client list that make your work looks good. That sentence didn't really make sense. They make your work look good, and you know, sometimes their curatorial skills are a bit better than mine. I gave them the show, It all worked out. Slightly stressful, but I'm at the stage now where it's kind of like, it's all up. I get to chill out now, apologise to my family and kind of go, I'll make it up to you. How about we all go and have a nice meal somewhere? And,
that's
you know,
good.
I spend time with them and stuff. But, yeah, I mean, I'm happy with the show. It looks great. You know, but I think that's for other people to say, not just for me. I may be a little bit biased, possibly. But, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't know whether I answered the question or not, but
Absolutely.
I ramble.
Yeah. You answer it. Thank you so much.
That's okay.
Yeah, it was brilliant interview. I enjoyed so much, and thank you so much. And I hope that our viewers also would like this interview. So don't hesitate to like, to share this link with your friends, to leave your comments. And also, we would be very grateful if you leave in the comments the names of South Australian artists that you would like we to talk with in the future. Thank you so much.
Cool.
And thank you.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.